So as David mentioned, I'm Trenten. I'm a junior and a part of Hokie Fam, and today I have the pleasure to share my snapshot with you all. I'd like to share how I've seen God move in my life recently, and how since entering college, my understanding of God's love and role in my life has fundamentally changed. In order to do that, I'd first like to share a bit about my upbringing. I grew up in a Christian household, and church has always been an important focus in my life. My family would move around, but my parents made sure to provide me and my brothers with a strong church that we could feel at home at. But ultimately, I viewed church as just an event in my week, similar to a sport practice. I'd have my church friends, my school friends, and my sports friends. Everything was in its nice box as I made my way through the week. I had thought that I was doing things right, going to church, checking the box, but my understanding of having a personal relationship with God just hadn't been realized. In my junior year of high school, I really liked my church group, my friends, and felt that I was in a good place with the Lord, with the criteria I thought being a good Christian was. But halfway through the year, my understanding changed. Once COVID hit, my family had to suddenly move back to Virginia, and I was just crushed. I didn't think it was fair that I was having to leave all my friends with just about a week to say goodbye. It was really the first time I had to consider what trusting in the Lord really meant. It was always easy to believe I was going with God's plan until it turned out to be vastly different to my own. Shortly after moving, I rejoined the youth group I had attended when my family was in Virginia a few years earlier. There, my ideas of living a Christian life were challenged, and I re-examined myself to figure out what having a relationship with God meant and how I act that out in my daily life. After finishing high school and coming to VT, one of the first things I did was try to find a church. I heard of this thing called Gobbler Connect, logged on, and NLCF was the first thing that stuck out to me. It seemed to have a great community, plus it was walkable and advertised free food. So it was a pretty easy choice. The donuts go crazy. After attending my first Sunday and watching an Intro to Fam's video, I filled out a Connect card and soon got plugged into Hokie Fam. Through meeting different people in the church, I was introduced to the idea of doing life together. I can remember my first Hokie Fam time, seeing how everybody had a hunger for the Lord and wanted to pursue Him together, not just one day a week, but display the characteristics of God in our classes, through intramurals, and just hanging out at the break zone. My faith was just an on or off switch depending on the situation I was in, but NLCF began to teach me how God isn't just there when it's convenient for you. I recall hanging out with David at the break zone at the end of my freshman year, and he asked me if I felt the Lord calling me to do anything in the church. Normally, if I'd been asked that question, I wouldn't necessarily give it much thought, but I really asked the Lord for guidance, trying to figure out what He wanted for me. Lost my place. I began to realize that seeing the Lord work in my life isn't always passive, but can require action based on the opportunities given to me. Despite being anxious on a stage, I told David that I'd like to try out for the worship team the following semester. After joining the band and fostering new connections, the Lord taught me what it looks like to worship Him with others through music. Consciously acting on opportunities God put in front of me allowed the Lord to move through relationships I've had with the bands or through simply filling out a Connect card and joining Hokie Fam. The relationships I've made through actually trying to figure out what the Lord wants from me have shown me how I can continually improve in my walk with God. Whenever I would think about answering the question, how is God moving in my life, I would think of large, tangible things and would ignore the small details that make life beautiful. I would separate my day-to-day life and times I would give God time in my life. When I think of God working in my life now, I see God moving in the small things. I think of simply saying hello to friends while I walk to class, getting a text asking how my week has been, or randomly getting picked up to get ice cream. I think of others strong in the faith that would give me encouragement to deepen my relationship with the Lord. God moving in my life isn't just about the things He does in my life, it's also about the things that encourage me to live out my faith and try to display the characteristics of God in other people's lives. I am Trenten Motor, and that's my snapshot.